This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Guess we can ask Tom Murphy about that as he joins us now. Whole Hog Sports Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Tom, we will ask you some Enos, Woodson, Wilson, and Pittman questions. But what is your favorite streaming service app?
That was an interesting conversation you guys are having. And our family's going to have the big Netflix talk because I'm not sure when these changes kick in.
You're going to have a powwow, huh?
Yeah, we will. But I watched a cool one last night. It's the Christian Bale movie that has the Edgar Allan Poe deal in it on Netflix, Pale Blue Eye. But we have Amazon Prime and Netflix, and I don't know, maybe a few others, but we stick to those two most.
I am the worst about scrolling through 500 shows. If the picture's no good, I don't watch it, right? I mean, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I'll scroll through 500 shows. Ain't nothing worth watching. There's probably 100 gems in there I passed over, and I don't know. I judge the book by its cover too much when trying to find something new to watch on streaming services.
I hear you, man. My wife and I have been on a kick of a lot of the Brit shows, and so we have watched like Shetland together, and I'm drawing a blank on some of them, but Vera and
Tudors, that one.
Which one?
Tudors. You watching that one?
I missed.
Is The Crown the original of all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think my wife watched that one solo, but yeah, I enjoy going through Amazon. I've watched all the Boss shows; those were good, set in L.A.
Yeah, I started way back with House of Cards. And then Ozark, and I need to get back to Ozark. In fact, I've never watched the last season or whatever that released 8 months ago or a year ago, whatever it was. Now I need to go back and watch all the old ones to know what I'm talking about.
It's difficult sometimes. Yeah. Well, Tom, let's jump into some football. I know you were asking Sam Pittman and a couple other guys some of the questions yesterday. I wonder, from your vantage point, as we get closer to spring ball, what do you think are some of the biggest storylines heading into spring?
Well, I'll tell you what. All the years I've been covering this team, we've never had this much turnover in terms of players and coaches, and also there's going to be amazing number of stories out there, like how will the new receiving core work? I mean, you've got some guys who are taller. I mean, last year the taller guys they worked out for them, but thinner guys and guys who were coming from lower ranked schools. But Sam Pittman was asked that, are you concerned they're going to not assimilate into the SEC? And his thought was, well, no, the talent is there, and they had all these other SEC offers. So it's going to be really cool to see these dudes fit in. They've got to replenish at DB. As we know, they lost so many of those. So the Baylor guys and the rest of these other transfers and all, and which of the freshmen, like will Jalen Lewis be able to give you some playing time and all, and what will Quincy McAdoo do? Because apparently Snacks Johnson's a corner where you got McLaughlin and Johnson, and then McAdoo would be another corner, and then you still have Chavis. So I don't know. I can't think of a position on this team and not feel like it's going to be a very compelling deal, really, outside of quarterback, and receiver, which was where they come in. I guess quote the most loaded. So I don't know. I think it's just going to be a fascinating team to watch and to see what the new schemes look like.
So I think the most interesting thing to me to watch is how do they spend those last 9 scholarships? He mentioned someone else that can snap the ball. How many? And the assistant coaches were the defensive guys were asking about more corners and safeties. How they distribute those 9 remaining scholarships, what they do in the portal. To me, that's maybe more interesting than what actually happens in spring practice.
Yeah, because they really scored in the portal last year. I mean, there's no disputing that. The guys they got through the portal were all like players, and I think they need to get a few more. Where they're going to fit in. He mentioned a bigger guy on the D line was John Morgan and Trajan Jeffcoat. Is that enough to supplement the guys you have coming back, the Zach Williamses and the Torian Carters and Cam Balls and so on? Well, I think you're starting to see the makings of a bigger, more talented roster. Arkansas is not going to have the number of pass rushing freaks that a lot of the other SEC schools have, so you got to maximize. That's why it hurt to lose Jordan Dominic. But the linebackers, we saw some good work out of Pooh Paul in that bowl game. Like he's going to be a player. Well, is Jordan Crook going to be a player? Will they get any more linebackers? How much is Greer going to help him at linebacker? I mean, there's an endless number of storylines for this team.
One other storyline I was thinking about this morning that we haven't discussed a lot is, I guess Jimmy Smith is the only full-time assistant that remains from the original staff. What does that say about Sam Pittman and where he's at going into year 4 and the complete staff overhaul he now has after replacing both coordinators?
Right. Well, I mean, some of it was guys, from the first year, they weren't getting it done in recruiting. And then this year you have guys who took jobs who moved up. Barry Odom into the head coaching ranks, so I thought he'd land at a bigger school to start with. Dowell Loggins, who wants to be an offensive coordinator. Those make sense. Kendall Briles, maybe his time had just run out here. So I think you're right. I mean, Jimmy Smith has been absolutely one of the top recruiters, if not the top recruiter on the team. The running back room is the one that has stayed together the absolute best, along, with KJ. But what he's done with that running back room and to keep guys like A.J. Green and all and I think these kids probably sense it, that if you're not going to be a 12 or 1,300 yard back, it's good to split them up. Well, now Rocket did that this last year, but can Dubinion and A.J. Green and Augusta come in and pull more of that load off of Rocket? That's going to be interesting to see.
And Dominique Johnson, I know, is trying to rehab that ACL injury, and then Rashad Dubinion as well. So that's a loaded room, which I know Coach Pittman and Jimmy Smith are happy about. We're talking with Tom Murphy here this morning. Tom, you kind of alluded to the pieces they still needed to add. 9 scholarships remaining for this roster. I would guess that Sam Pittman and company, once that next transfer portal cycle rolls around, are going to be – what's the one position that you feel like, man, you got to add some guy?
Yeah, safeties, just because the numbers they have about 9 corners and they have like 6 safeties. So they got to add some safeties. And I always think you need to add more D linemen if you can. Mm-hmm. And as he said, someone who can snap the ball. I think they like to have about 5 or 6 guys who can snap it. And, of course, they lost Stromberg. And I think they lost one other guy who could snap the ball. Oh, Luke Jones can snap it. Yeah, so a guy who can snap the ball. And,
like electricity, you take it for granted till it doesn't work anymore, You just take for granted that the snap's going to get back there properly.
That's right, man. And then, I mean, not to draw a parallel, but when you see what happened with the 49ers in the playoffs, when they've already lost 2 quarterbacks, and then they lose 2 more, and then one of them is injured. I mean, that's not going to really happen on the college level, but I think coaches can draw like comparisons to that. Like, okay, we got to make sure we have 5 guys who can snap the ball when we go into a game, or we got to have enough depth at receiver. And you saw how Arkansas was tested, and then and that's another good question for this team. You got the incoming transfer talent, but how much is Isaiah Satania going to improve, and Jaden Wilson and Bryce Stevens? Because you trust those guys, so you want them to get better and also stay in the mix.
Like the Snacks Johnson edition. I know Nano Lorando's is his first name, but I think that's going to be one of the more talked about names this upcoming season, nicknames for that be. Tom, I want to ask about just kind of the staff and what seems to be Pittman going younger than what he has had in years past, and especially in Darren Wilson, who not really even a decade ago was playing college ball or about that. Is that something we're going to see not just here at Arkansas and staff changes, but across the board in college football and in the importance of recruiting?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's absolutely the case. And, I mean, honestly, this staff stayed together a little bit more than it seems to me the national trend. I mean, guys are just moving. But to me, the constant thread with who he hires is whether they can recruit. And that's what he talked about. In fact, I asked the question about they looked younger on defense. And he got a kick out of that and made a little joke about, have you seen Marcus Woodson?
Yeah.
Well, he's like 41, maybe 42, so he's he and Deke are the oldest guys, but it's a recruiting thing. And, you know, they're going to have to get on, you know, their plans for what their defense is going to look like between now and the start of spring ball, now that signing day is over. And so, I don't know. I sense that there's going to be good synergy between Williams, Woodson, Wilson, and Deke Adams on defense, and that they're going to recruit well on that side of the ball.
And you look at that staff, and I think it's noteworthy for Arkansas, and we're in the South. I mean, you have a defensive staff that's made up of 5 young professionals, but also 5 African-American, 5 minority coaches, which that's, I think, unique and something that I think will get written about and talked about as football kind of cycles back to the headlines, Tom.
I think it will, and all defense for sure. And then you got Kenny Guyton, too, so there's actually 6 full-time assistants, and that's a big deal. And I do think that's a recruiting feather for Sam Pittman and this staff. And, you know, we'll see how that plays out. But I think they're going to make Arkansas a good destination school. And, you know, some things have to fall into place. I think their portal guys have got to be as productive as, you know, John Ridgway and Trey Williams from 2 years ago. And then the huge number of guys they had from last year, they've got to be productive. So I think they got to get some productive safeties out of the portal, you know, like they got from Brini and whomever else they had on, like, you know, Nudie, McGlother played a big role. So I don't know. I think Sam Pittman understands that the modern game is changing fast, and you've got to be prepared to handle that with nimble assistant coaches, and I think he's pulled the trigger to make that happen.
All right, before you go, real quick, how do you describe this basketball game that Arkansas will play Saturday at South Carolina? One of the bottom teams in the SEC. Arkansas trying to get to 5-5. What's your thoughts on Saturday's game, Arkansas and South Carolina?
Yeah, my first thought was this: everybody has won there, and not only have they won like in double figures. I mean, Mississippi State did it the other night. So now it feels like if you don't do that, then you haven't kept up with the Joneses. So they need to get their first road win is what they need to do. And honestly, they're playing better. You think about the Baylor game. I complained about the calls the other day. I just thought it was uneven. And then the Missouri game before that was a game they would have, should have won. And when you lead by 10 points with however much time was left. So they lost 2 of the last 5, but they're very close to having a 5-game winning streak right now. So I think they're getting it close to getting solved. I think Mikael Mitchell's shot blocking the other night was a revelation. I think he's going to continue to help with interior defense. And they seem to have more of a comfortable half-court offense right now. So things are looking up. Nick Smith might be back before long, and if he does, yeah, you have to make one more transition. But I think it's the one that's going to take you down the home stretch. I
just hope they come out of the gates fast, guys, on Saturday.
Seriously.
At the under 12, I hope you have that double digitally. I know that's every game you hope to beat, but I think this is the game where you want to eliminate any hope that South Carolina is going to hang around early in this ballgame. Extinguish hope early on the road. I think that's I would love to see that. I don't know that it'll play out that way, Tom, but if Arkansas can get off to a fast start and really start to create some more self-doubt for South Carolina, that would be a great start for the Hogs on Saturday.
No, it's huge for them, and that's the thing with South Carolina. If you can get way up on them, I don't think they can mount the kind of comeback. You know, LSU had a little bit of a comeback at Missouri last night. Ole Miss had a pretty good second half before Arkansas stepped on the gas again. But I think with South Carolina, if you can get up by double figures, perhaps they might go away a little easier.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.